He chose career over us. In the heart of Manhattan, where the city pulses with energy and possibility, there lived a woman named Eliza. She was a writer, her soul attuned to poetry, her heart open to the quiet beauty in everyday moments. Eliza's life was shaped by words, and while she loved her independence, she never stopped believing in the kind of love that could turn even the greyest city day into something golden. She met Daniel on a rain-soaked afternoon, the kind of day when umbrellas bloom like flowers across the avenues. Daniel was an architect, driven by ambition, his mind always racing with visions of skylines and possibility. They collided, quite literally, at the corner of 57th and Lexington. Her notebook tumbled to the sidewalk, pages fluttering, and he stooped to gather them, his hands careful, his smile apologetic. Their connection was instant. Two worlds intersecting by chance and then refusing to let go. They spent that first afternoon together in a corner cafe, speaking in the language of dreams and possibility. Daniel spoke of buildings that touched the clouds, of glass and steel that reflected hope. Eliza listened, captivated not just by his words, but by the rare vulnerability beneath his determined facade. As the weeks turned to months, their lives began to intertwine. Eliza's mornings, once silent and solitary, were now punctuated by Daniel's laughter, by cups of coffee shared across kitchen counters, by late-night walks through Central Park where the city seemed to belong only to them. They were opposites in many ways. Eliza, the dreamer with ink-stained hands, Daniel, the realist with blueprints in his briefcase, but together, they found a balance. She taught him to slow down, to notice the wildflowers growing in the cracks of the city. He taught her the beauty of structure, the thrill of creation. Yet, beneath the surface, their differences carried a quiet tension. Daniel's career demanded everything: long nights at the office, weekends spent sketching, endless travel. Each new project seemed to take him further away, not just in distance, but in spirit. Eliza tried to understand. She admired his passion, shared his excitement, but she missed the man who would once get lost with her in bookstores, or linger over dinner just to hear her read a new poem. One spring evening, as cherry blossoms drifted along the sidewalks, Daniel arrived home later than ever. His eyes were bright, his words rushed. He had been offered the lead on a groundbreaking project, a skyscraper in Dubai. It was the opportunity he'd worked for his entire life. Eliza listened, her heart swelling with pride and tightening with fear. She asked, softly, what it would mean for them. Daniel hesitated, then spoke of months apart, of how busy he would be, of how it might be better for her to stay in New York, to focus on her own work. The days that followed were a blur of hope and heartache. They tried to pretend everything was the same, sharing quiet meals, holding each other a little tighter. But the city that once felt like their cocoon began to feel too big, too empty. On their last night together before Daniel's flight, they walked the city streets, hand in hand, silent but for the sound of their footsteps. Rain began to fall, just as it had the day they met. They took shelter beneath the awning of a closed bookstore, the world around them shrinking to a few precious feet. Eliza looked up at Daniel, searching his face for answers. He cupped her cheeks in his hands, his thumb tracing a tear she hadn't realized she'd shed. "You're the best thing that's ever happened to me," he whispered. "But I'm scared I'll lose myself if I don't take this chance." She understood, more than he knew. She had always loved his fire, the way his eyes lit up when he spoke of the impossible. But she also knew their paths, once parallel, now stretched in different directions. "I want you to go," she said, her voice steady despite the ache. "Not because I don't love you, but because I do. And I want you to build the life you've dreamed of." They stood there, holding each other, time slowing to a standstill. When Daniel finally let go, Eliza watched him walk into the rain, his silhouette dissolving into the city he loved. Days turned to weeks, then months. Eliza poured her heart into her writing, her words carrying traces of their love, its beauty, its loss, its quiet hope. Daniel's emails grew less frequent, filled with photographs of distant skylines and stories of late-night breakthroughs. They remained connected, but the distance was more than miles. It was the space between two dreams, each beautiful, each necessary, but no longer intertwined. Eliza learned to find joy in her own company again. She wandered the city, finding comfort in its constancy, its ability to surprise her even when she least expected it. She discovered new cafes, made friends with other artists, and let the city's rhythm become her own. Her writing blossomed, her words now carrying the weight of experience, the bittersweetness of loving and letting go. One autumn afternoon, as leaves blazed gold along Park Avenue, Eliza stumbled upon a new building rising above the skyline. Its lines were bold, its glass reflecting the sky. She recognized Daniel's touch in every detail, the way the structure seemed to soar, to reach for something just out of sight. She stood there for a long time, tears prickling her eyes, pride and sadness mingling in her chest. She realized then that love doesn't always mean holding on. Sometimes, it means giving someone the space to become who they're meant to be, even if it means walking away. Years passed. Eliza's writing gained recognition, her stories resonating with those who had loved and lost, who had chosen themselves after choosing someone else. Daniel's buildings dotted skylines from New York to Dubai, each one a testament to his vision, his drive. They crossed paths again one winter, at an art exhibit in the city where it all began. The air was crisp, snow swirling outside, the gallery warm with laughter and light. Eliza spotted Daniel across the room, his hair touched with grey, his eyes still bright. Their reunion was gentle, filled with the ease of old friends. They spoke of their journeys, of the dreams they chased and the lessons they learned. There was no bitterness, only gratitude, for the love they shared, for the courage to let it go. As they parted that night, Daniel pressed a small, folded note into Eliza's hand. Later, beneath the soft glow of her desk lamp, she opened it. His handwriting was familiar, steady. "Thank you for loving me enough to let me go. I hope you know I've always carried you with me. In every city, in every building, in every quiet moment when I remember how it felt to be truly seen." Eliza smiled, tears slipping down her cheeks, not of sorrow, but of acceptance. She realized that their story, while not the fairy tale she once imagined, was still a love story. A story of two hearts brave enough to chase their dreams, even when it meant saying goodbye. And in the city that had witnessed their beginning and their end, Eliza found peace. She walked beneath the skyscrapers, her heart light, her spirit free, knowing that love, in all its forms, was never wasted. It was woven into the fabric of her life, a quiet melody that would play on, long after the last goodbye.